More than 5 million Americans are dealing with a heart condition called AFIB, but this morning there is some good news to report on how to treat it. Joining us now to tell us more about AFIB and this new treatment is Dr. Todd Valines. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
So let's talk about AFIB. I think this is really interesting. Apparently a lot of people have this. I have a family member that deals with this. How do you explain what AFIB is?
It's the most common heart rhythm problem that affects Americans, and its primary concern is that it's a very common cause of stroke in the United States.
Well, is it something you were born with, or are there certain things that cause it later in life? How do you even know if you have it?
Yeah, well, it's something that most people are not born with, but the risk of atrial fibrillation does increase as people get older. Generally, most patients will have symptoms of feeling that their heart is racing, described as palpitations, shortness of breath, those types of issues. Some patients may not be aware that they have atrial fibrillation. Fortunately, we have very good effective therapies for atrial fibrillation, such as anticoagulants. Particularly some of the newer drugs that I've recently been studying and presenting research on here at the American Heart Association, these so-called novel anticoagulants that can reduce the risk of stroke significantly.
Well, interesting. Does stress cause it? What are the triggers that can really put people in danger?
Well, the risks for developing atrial fibrillation are many. The most common are just simply getting older. Patients over 65 have a significant risk of atrial fibrillation, particularly patients with high blood pressure or really any form of structural heart disease, such as prior heart attack, heart failure, prior heart surgeries, or chronic lung disease. Those are all risk factors for atrial fibrillation.
And you mentioned the treatments. There are treatment options, right? Is there a way to control it?
The treatments are tremendously effective. Historically, we've only had one so-called these blood thinner or anticoagulant drugs. That was warfarin. We only had that one anticoagulant for almost 60 years. Now, over the last 4 years, we have a new class of medicines that, in my opinion, are simply more effective and safe, that do not have a lot of the issues that Coumadin has, such as they don't have the drug interactions that Coumadin or warfarin had. They're much easier for patients to take. And what we've learned through new research is that these drugs appear to be much more effective and safe. And so we presented research here at the American Heart Association on a drug called Pradaxa or dabigatran, and found that users of Pradaxa had a significantly lower stroke rate as compared to users of warfarin, and in fact actually had a lower rate of death and bleeding as well. So these drugs appear to be safer and more effective, and we think reduce the risk of stroke by almost 70%.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Well, doctor, what's the take home here? What do you want people to know about it, and certainly talk with their doctor about?
Well, first and foremost, if you have atrial fibrillation, go talk to your doctor. We have very effective treatments. Secondly, these new drugs, which a lot of us wanted to see data in the real world to see if they were indeed safe and effective, it appears that they are. So drugs like Pradaxa are extremely safe and, in fact, appear to be very effective and safe compared to warfarin. So you have options to reduce your risk of stroke if you have atrial fibrillation.
Well, doctor, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us this morning. I'm glad you had good news to report and share with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right, we, of course, will put that info on our website, fox4morningblend.com.